In Edinburgh, a long-running campaign for the Melville Monument to better reflect the reality of the city's links to slavery is fast gaining momentum. Efforts to add a plaque, spearheaded by Professor Jeff Palmer of Heriot-Watt University, have finally been confirmed after some 2 years, and he joins me now. Thanks very much for being with us, and we'll talk about the Melville Monument in a moment. I know you've been taking part in the Black Lives Matter protest. Did you support the toppling of the slave traders' statue in Bristol?
Well, I'm very much aware of the statue, and I knew, I know that they were debating about putting a plaque or to revise the plaque, and that took a long time. And when it was toppled, I thought, that was almost inevitable because of the anger in Bristol, which I knew about, and also the death of George Floyd. I think combining the frustration in Bristol and the social conditions, plus the death of this young man, I think precipitated it. So I wasn't surprised, but I'm not a supporter in removing historical monuments.
But isn't the destruction of a statue an attempt to consign it and all it represents to history? And isn't that a good thing in a way?
Well, I don't know what that goodness would mean, because once the statue has come down, what do you do next? If, in fact, the social conditions remain the same. And what I'm concerned about is in 100 years, you look back and somebody said, who was Colston? And therefore, I think removing history is, one should consider it very carefully. And, for example, if you take a street name down and you put something else up, I think it's a slow removal of history. And part of that is Black history. And somehow what I would prefer is for a plaque to be put up, and the plaque should have no holds barred. If somebody was responsible for killing 50 slaves or 100 slaves or 1,000 slaves, that should be on the plaque.
Sorry to interrupt. So keep the statue.
No problem.
But attach a plaque putting what that person did in a different context, or in the real context, if you like.
Absolutely. And I think part of the problem in our society, if you look at newspaper articles, or if you look at the protest that is taking place at the moment, and you tend to get, and people do it without even knowing they are. They always try to produce what they call a balance. And, if somebody killed 50 slaves, then that should be on it. But if he gives, £1,000 to some charity, that shouldn't be on it. And I think that what has caused so much problem over the years is this concept of balance. And I think that if we had plaques which actually told the historical story in terms of the evil or the cruelties that these people did, then I think you would have a better reaction to the plaque. And that's how I view the Henry Dundas statue in Edinburgh.
Yeah, so the Dundas statue in Edinburgh, I mean, now he delayed the abolition of slavery. Am I right in saying that's what he did effectively? And so what sort of words would you put on your plaque? And I guess then you could reach the stage where people just disagree with what the form of words are that you put on the plaque.
Well, we had a committee which ran for over 2 years, and we debated, what should be on the plaque. The original plaque that was on the statue only, it talked about all the grand, powerful political positions he had. He was, he controlled war and the Navy. he ran the colonies, he selected the governors. So other than the Prime Minister Pitt, he was the most powerful politician in Britain. Now, the point is that I want on the plaque that his involvement in slavery, that he caused the gradual abolition of the slave trade for 15 years. He actually frustrated Wilberforce for 15 years. And I believe that should be on the plaque, that he gradually abolished the slave trade. And when you look at the time, at the politicians, Pitt and Fox, those guys are giants of British politics. Pitt described Dundas's gradual as, refusing to act until 1,000 favorable circumstances unite. That was what they all knew it meant. And therefore, for us to debating it in 18, 19, and a couple of my colleagues did not want slavery on the plaque. And I refused to accept that. And therefore, we arrived at an impasse, and the council a couple of days ago actually said, well, that committee now is dead, and we're not really going to do anything anymore. And what the sudden change is because the public saw, what was going on with George Floyd. They saw what was going on with all the stuff we were putting up on Twitter about Edward Dundas's past. He not only delayed the abolition of the slave trade, he attacked San Domingo, Haiti, and he lost 40,000 British troops. He got the governors in Jamaica, say the governor there, to transport the Maroons to Nova Scotia. But he did it, what my colleague says, he did it because he was making money for Britain. So what's the big deal?
Well, so would you be fishing out the Colston statue from Bristol docks and put it back on the plinth and then put a plaque on explaining, what this guy represented? Would you be thinking about doing that?
It will be probably very difficult to do, and I hope, because I don't think they can put it back in terms of its state, the state it's in. So they can probably put it in a museum, but I'm very concerned. For example, if the authorities decide they're going to melt it down, because somehow, there may be racists in our system who want these things to be removed, because they see it as a part of my history, and they cannot bring themselves to write a plaque for it. So somebody may want a street name removed because he doesn't want to put a plaque there to say that guy killed 100 Black people as slaves. And that's where I feel that we've got to be very careful. You can remove the statues, remove the plaques. What do you do about the stately homes that, in fact, were built on slave money? So somebody's got to think this through carefully.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do here and with my colleagues is to put a plaque on Dundas's statue. And this has taken 3 days. And the meeting this morning, in 1 hour, we actually prepared a draft in 1 hour.
Yeah, and just finally, would you be? There are people who want to tear down the Cecil Rhodes statue now at Oxford. What would your message be to people who wanted to bring that down and other statues maybe around the country?
I would say to them, remove the evidence, you remove the deed. Remove the evidence, you remove the deed. And I would prefer that statue to remain where it is, but put on that statue exactly what he did. And what we then have to do is to make sure this is taught in schools and universities, and that, in fact, we can use these history taught truthfully. And I believe that this will help to change attitudes, and it will also give people a sense of belonging, surprisingly, because without a sense of belonging, people don't exist well in a society. And therefore, what racists do is to try and damage your sense of belonging. Right. Thus, we've got to teach history to make sure that the Black people in this country have a sense of belonging so they can compete and have representation which in fact will allow them to take part in the society and not be seen as the other because they're black.
OK, Sir Geoffrey Palmer, interesting stuff. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.